Good evening, everybody. This is Mike Tedesco of Wrestleview.com, the editor-in-chief of Wrestleview.com. Sorry for being a little late here. I just updated my computer last week. It's been bugging me for I don't even know, a month to upgrade my system, and I did, and apparently there's an issue with OBS running on Mac OS Catalina or something like that. So I had to just scour online. I had no idea. So I had to scour online real quick to look for a solution. So now I'm running this out of my terminal, which is always great. Unfortunately, as of right now, I don't have access. I can't actually use my... I can't show my screen at the moment. So that's a thing. Can't do that. Other than that, should be able to work. We'll see what happens. Hopefully you're seeing me just fine. Hopefully you're hearing me just fine. Yeah, so just sorry about it was kind of buggy a little bit, so sorry about that. All right. Let's say hello to everybody in the chat room. Okay, good. I can see myself on the screen. That's good. All right. All right. Daddy's home. Yes, Daniel Shell, Daddy's home. That's correct. Michael Jewell, hey, the proud papa is in the house. You're damn right I'm a proud papa. You're damn right I am. I love being a dad. It's the greatest gift of my entire life. And this baby is just the best baby on earth. It's so cute. Love it. Yeah, Andrew Elder says Microsoft is having issues too with the net frame updates. Yep. And Nafis Sadat says, oh yeah, Catalina has and will cause a lot of issues. Yeah, Catalina is just horrible. I can't even download anything right now. So I have to take this thing into the Genius bar and get them to frickin' look at this thing, which is total BS. It's like, why do they always put out buggy crap? That's what I want to know. Apple sucks. I think I'm gonna switch over to a Windows next time when I'm looking for a computer. Not anytime soon though, because we have a baby to pay for. Hayden Barker in the chat room tonight. Evening, Mike. Love to Victoria and baby Tedesco. Yes, thank you so much. Thank you for all your support, by the way, Hayden. We appreciate it. Daniel Shell, is she already in WWE Developmental? Not yet. She's getting there though. She has a really great grip for someone who's only 17 days old. She rolled over for the first time the other day, and that's a 4-month-old milestone, and she's only 2 weeks old and rolled over already. So we got a freak of nature on our hand. It's crazy. Nafi Sadat, hello. Daniel Shell, Billy Hefner, our dear friend. He's in the chat room tonight. Mushroom Walls, good evening, Mike. And how's the baby doing? The baby's awesome. Quentin Walters, our dear friend, our super fan in the chat room tonight. Awesome. We have a good crowd here tonight. And we have a semi-decent Raw to talk about. Again, 2 weeks in a row. I absolutely love this reset of Raw, if you will, a reset of Raw that, hey, they're doing something different. And I think we've all been asking for a while. This show is pretty damn stale right now. It's the same guys on top all the time. I talked about this last week. It's always the same guys, seems like, in the main event all the time. And yeah, we still have Seth Rollins on the show. Randy Orton's going to be a force on the show. But they are doing their best right now. And it's only 2 weeks in, but they're doing their best right now to try to just reintroduce, or not even reintroduce, just introduce some fresh talent to the general audience. Was it all successful tonight? No, but it's an introduction. You have to kind of get used to them. So that's what's going on here tonight. We'll talk about what was successful, what wasn't successful. We'll talk about all that stuff. Hayden asking, has WWE got a developmental name for baby Tedesco yet? Well, I don't. Yeah, I'm trying to think of what kind of tacky ass name they could possibly give her. How about Rowena? Yeah, something like, I bet you they come up with something stupid like Rowena Stratinovsky or something like that. It's just something terrible that doesn't even fit her personality or her look whatsoever. Yeah. I don't like the Raws, but maybe I'm stale. That's what Hayden says. Well, yeah, we'll see. I'm going to kind of discuss what's going on tonight with Raw, and we'll see how we feel about it at the end. Nafis asking, how's Victoria doing? Victoria's doing great, actually. She's recovered nicely from giving birth, which was a really taxing thing. It's a laborful thing, and she's doing good. She's doing really good. Randy M in the chat room. Hey, how's dad life? How's dad life? Well, let me tell you about my 2 weeks. I'll try to condense it into 2 things: pee and poop. That's all. That's how my 2 weeks have been. I have been peed on. I have been shat on. I have been spat up on. So I guess you can add a third thing on that. But I've also gotten a ton of love from this baby too. This baby's just so cute. Just so cute. So wonderful. It's awesome. A 1-word name, Mike. Oh, Andrew Elder wants a 1-word. I'll try. Daniel Shalrio Let Tedesco. That's a good one. I like that. 3-hour sleep cycles. Yeah, that's pretty tough. We are being run ragged by this baby just a little bit too. She doesn't like to sleep at night, but luckily neither does her father. All right, let's check out the Raw poll tonight before we get started. I can't show it to you because, again, I told you my OBS is having issues right now with Mac OS Catalina, and I'll try to do a real fix for this later on. But according to Twitter right now, it's 62% thumbs down for this Raw from St. Louis. I'm assuming everybody's just doing their vote based off of the divorce court segment, which ended Raw. Risky move to have that end Raw, but I guess they got tired of trying to explain why Seth Rollins is usually in the last segment of Raw and that segment tanks. So they wanted to put something else there and see if that would tank, but of course they would put something that's guaranteed to tank there. Unless they put it at the end because they knew it was going to tank the rest of that hour and they figured, well, let's just stick it at the end. So if it tanks, we don't have to worry about anybody having to come back. I don't know. Not a fan of the Rusev-Lana storyline. I think I made that clear for quite some time. I thought they did a good job of it last week at the restaurant thing. I thought it was funny. But I can see where this is going. And in fact, my opinion on the Rusev-Lana Bobby Lashley storyline has been greatly skewed by my wife Victoria, who will be rejoining us at some point, hopefully in the next month or so. She had a theory, something that she noticed on Raw tonight during that segment. And you know what? Hell, let's just talk about that segment. Okay, so we're going to do the Raw from St. Louis. It's October 28th right now. Hayden Barker says, I voted down because I intensely dislike Hulk Hogan. Well, you're not the only one. There are a lot of people that don't like that guy, including Jordan Miles. When on top of everything else, he also went against Hulk Hogan tonight, or on Twitter today, I think it was. That's a mess. That whole entire thing is a mess. There's a lot of layers to that story that it's more than just his tweeting. I think there's been a lot of rumors about cuts coming up, and I think maybe he realized he was on the chopping block. I haven't really, even on the NXT live event results, which we post every weekend. NXT has usually 4 live events that run in Florida, in different cities in Florida, 4 times a week from Thursday to Sunday. Jordan Miles hasn't been on really any of them since September, and I'm wondering if, those latest rounds of cuts that were rumored, I wonder if he saw the writing on the wall and is now trying to make it difficult for them to release him. Yes, the t-shirt is extremely distasteful. It's a terrible t-shirt. Just even if it didn't have any racial connotations, it's just a bad t-shirt. But they always give these guys, like stupid gimmicks like this. Like if they don't understand the gimmick, like nobody understands what ACH is, and we're bringing them into WWE. So just like with Apollo Crews, just like with a whole bunch of other African-American performers that they've had, they give them like this goofy smiling gimmick because they don't understand how to market them any other way. So Apollo Crews, Cedric Alexander is the happy-go-lucky, I'm just happy to be here guy. Like Jordan Miles, same thing. And, his gimmick, the tagline was Smiles from Miles, if I'm not mistaken. So it just was a bad design for a t-shirt, but it seems like, he's trying to corner them a little bit, and I think to save his job. So and maybe he wants a good severance package if they were to release him with those latest rounds coming up. So I don't know, because it's definitely an ugly thing. It's definitely ugly. But I have to say he was probably pretty happy to see Eric Rowan throw Seth Rollins into the merchandise stand tonight and destroy it. So Jordan Miles definitely probably got a kick out of that if he was watching Raw. Yeah, and everybody's talking about, I mean, like, he kind of went off the deep end talking about, Hogan calling Jay Lethal a pretty derogatory name for African Americans. So he burned a bridge in Ring of Honor as well. It's not a good look. It's not a good way to conduct business. Sharing sensitive internal emails in the company on Twitter. They did the right thing. Look, they had a bad design for a t-shirt. Maybe he stuck up for himself. Maybe he didn't. But he did say that he was uncomfortable with the t-shirt, and they took it down right away. So I don't know. It's just an ugly situation. Very ugly situation. I'm probably not the best guy to commentate on it. Because I can't speak from his experience, and I don't want to come off like I'm defending WWE either, because I think the t-shirt design was horrible. But whatever. It's a situation. It's a thing. Hey, maybe he's just not happy there and wants to get fired. That could be a thing too. All right. Let's talk about this final segment, since we were just discussing it before I got into the Jordan Miles thing. Or the Alfred Hardy Jr. situation, or Albert, sorry. It's kind of funny though, like the internal emails, like they use like their real names. So they're like, "Hello, Albert. What do you think of this t-shirt design?" "I like it. Albert. Signed Albert. Love Albert." It's like, I don't know. Do you want to call him like Albie or something like that? Or just call him Jordan Miles, since they call Triple H instead of Paul Levesque? Kind of weird. All right. The King's Court with Rusev and Lana. The King's Court is being redubbed Divorce Court because we're going to figure out if divorce is the best possible option for this couple. I think so. I mean, look, I love my wife. No one loves their wife more than I do. No one has ever loved their wives in the history of loving wives more than me. But if my wife was cheating on me with a coworker, and my job was, more than just broadcasting to a couple hundred people on YouTube a week, and it was, being broadcast to a couple million people a week, and embarrassing me at my job, making out with my coworker and stuff like that, it wouldn't even be a thing. Like, she'd be long gone. She'd be long gone. And I would use that video evidence to show that she would be unfit as a mother and take the baby too. It'd be just a bad situation. She wouldn't do something like that, but God, does Rusev come off like such a dick in this, or what? I mean, like, even Jerry Lawler is like, the guy is wearing his wedding ring hoping you'll come back to him. It's like, why? How am I supposed to root for a guy that is that much of an idiot? That much of a loser? What a total sap. Loser. Goof. Ugh. Like, that's their idea of getting somebody over. That's their idea of, we're going to build them up strong. Well, whatever. So Lana says that all Rusev wanted is sex, 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 sex. He wanted it in the bedroom, in the kitchen, at the arena, at WrestleMania. He wanted it morning, afternoon, and nights. He wanted it all the time. He's a sex addict. And all he wanted to do was impregnate me. And Rusev said, you don't have to be pregnant. She goes, well, I'm a model and a fashion influencer, and no designer will dress me if I'm pregnant. And then she says that Rusev cheated on her, and Rusev says, who said that? And she said, Bobby Lashley told her, and he goes, well, Bobby Lashley's talking shit. And that was his line. Talking shit. They bleeped it out, but to make it more real, they gave you that. Well, we noticed something, and then Bobby Lashley came down, Rusev attacked him a little bit, and then Lashley eventually low blows Rusev after Lana hits him with a kendo stick a few times, low blows Rusev, Lana slaps Rusev in the face, and then Lashley low blows Rusev a second time and makes out with Lana to end the show. Yeah, so that's how they ended it. I can see why they wanted to end Raw with that rather than put that in the middle of the show and have everybody tune out collectively. So I guess it doesn't matter if they tune out in the last 15 minutes. We did notice something here, though. I was watching this with Victoria, and Victoria was pregnant as of a couple weeks ago, and she noticed something. Lana's face looks a little more fuller, and her stomach looks like it has a little bit of a pouch to it. All classic signs of, either she had too many ring dings or she's pargent. She could very well be pregnant. And it's very telling that they mentioned pregnancy tonight in the segment, that all Rusev wanted to do was impregnate her, blah, 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 blah. It's probably going to be revealed that she is pregnant. And that's where they bring in Maury Povich, who also wanted to be involved in the storyline. And he wouldn't say that if there wasn't some idea to get him involved in the storyline. But because she looks so early on in the pregnancy, I'm sure that she doesn't want to just come out and say, yeah, I'm pregnant, because, the first 12 weeks are pretty sketchy. When you're pregnant, it's high risk to lose the baby and stuff like that. So maybe they thought it would be a jinx if they brought it in right now. But I do believe eventually this is going to be revealed that she's pregnant. Then it's going to be, is Rusev the father? Is Bobby Lashley the father? Maury comes in, does a DNA test. It's probably going to wind up being at WWE TLC or maybe even the Royal Rumble, hopefully the kickoff show. Bobby Lashley versus Rusev with, custody on the line or something like that. Something weird is going to happen. But that's where this looks like to be heading. And Victoria's got an eagle eye for these things. Pregnant, people that are pregnant, either in the process of being pregnant or shortly after, they have a pretty good radar for these things. And she was around somebody and the person's like, I have a headache and I'm not feeling good. And Victoria goes, you might be pregnant. And she goes, no, I couldn't be pregnant. Comes back a week later, I'm pregnant. How did you know? It's just like, they're in tune to these things. I don't get it. I'm a guy. I don't understand these things. But they do. They are interesting creatures, these women. And, not all wrestling fans understand that. But I do. I do believe she's right, though, because as soon as the physical action happened, Lana kind of, got out of the ring. There's something to it. There's something there. None of what I just said excites me whatsoever. Not bringing Maury Povich in to do a DNA test on them, fighting for over who's the daddy and who's going to keep the baby, and this whole entire thing. None of this excites me. I am not by any means endorsing this storyline, but it seems like Paul Heyman, who really wanted to do something of like a paternity thing with Mike Kanellis and Maria Kanellis, until Mike Kanellis is like, I don't think this is good for my career. So rather than do this, I'd rather them just freeze my contract and just leave me on the sidelines forever. I'll collect that paycheck until my contract is over. I'll go on Twitter and say I want a release. So they leave me on the sidelines. I'll do whatever it takes so I don't have to continue on with this ridiculous career-killing storyline. So Mike Kanellis is out. Paul Heyman, for whatever reason, is really committed to this storyline, and here he got it. He got it. Just so happens that Rusev and Lana look to be pregnant. So there you go. Daniel Shell, Victoria has knowledge. Mike, wait until you work with 2 pregnant women like I did. Scott Poindexter. Oh, God. My condolences, sir. Oh, my God. Daniel Shell with this could be the perfect stipulation. Child payments on a pole match. Yes. Paternity test on a pole match. Oh, Quentin Walters. I like that. This is very ECW. It's something else. Oh my God, sonogram on a pole match. I love these ideas. I love it. I child support on a pole. This is great. Really, really good stuff. Andrew Elder, a person familiar with divorce, Jerry Lawler. Yeah, like the worst person. Jerry Lawler just be like, yeah, just get rid of her. Get rid of her. You can always do better. And somehow Lawler does do better. The guy is almost 70 years old. I was corrected last week. I was told that he's 69 years old. Have you seen the women that Jerry Lawler dates? Like, he overachieves every single time. I mean, starting with as far as I know, Stacy the Cat Carter, and this girl Lauren that he's with now, very, very attractive women. He's got the touch, man. He's got the touch. Jerry Lawler. Yeah, I mean, Jerry Lawler is so hardcore that he was making love to his girlfriend 2 years ago and suffered a stroke because it was just so intense. This guy's he's a madman. He's a total madman. I can start to, I'm actually tasting vomit in the back of my throat as I continue to talk about this. So I'd like to move on. But yeah, that was the last segment of Raw. That's where I think this is going. And I think if people are voting for Raw after just watching that, of course you'll vote thumbs down. But I like to vote in my mind with, the bigger picture in view, and I'm giving this Raw a thumbs up. Just to put it out there, just to preface it, this gets a thumbs up from me. Randy M, I thought Jerry wouldn't have anything to do with a girl unless she was under 18. Yeah, I'm not touching that one, and neither should he. That's gross. Yes, but he did get in trouble for that. 1993, actually. He got fired, I think, for a little bit, or they put him on suspension or something like that. He was supposed to be in a match at Survivor Series, and I think they took him out of it because of some accusation that happened. But turned out, according to how I remember the story, I think it was two girls, and they were trying to set Lawler up to extort him for money, and then I think they admitted what they did, and he was, found not guilty of everything. Hey, it's tough. It's tough to be a celebrity in any era. Yeah, I don't know if he settled. I don't know if it was a settlement. I actually think that their story didn't match up anymore, and I think they dropped it. Actually, I don't think there was a settlement there. I think they actually just dropped everything because I do believe that the girls were trying to set him up, if memory serves correctly. Oh, the girl's dad. Andrew Elder says the girl's dad was trying to set him up. Okay, cool. Now that we got that settled, let's talk about the rest of Raw. Okay, so Raw kicks off with Paige coming to the ring, of all people. Paige, I was like, what is Paige doing here? Last I saw her, she was on WWE Backstage. Well, Paige is on her way to the ring, and she introduces the Kabuki Warriors, who are now the WWE Women's Tag Team Champions. I swear to God, there's just so much crap that happens in WWE that it's just like, it just happens, and then you just move on. You just totally forget about it. Yes, before she had her neck surgery over the summer, she was managing the Kabuki Warriors. I just completely forgot about it. She brings them out, so I guess, hey, continuity, they remembered something. And WWE storytelling, I don't know if anybody's noticed, hasn't really been the best lately. And like I said, they have been trying to atone for it. They have been trying to slowly introduce new characters and give established characters a little bit of an edge and stuff like that. The Kabuki Warriors a few weeks ago, just out of nowhere, showed up and they're heel. And that happens all the time. I think 2 or 3 weeks ago on Raw, Lacey Evans, after having a blood feud with Natalya, all of a sudden shows up and she's her tag team partner, and Lacey Evans was a face, and then she comes just out of nowhere, just a face, I get powerbombed off the stage and now I'm a face. And then she goes to Friday Night SmackDown, she's a heel. We've seen this for years happening. Triple H and Stephanie would, open up a Raw a couple years ago when they were the Authority. They would open up a Raw, do their long heel promo, and then they'd come out and do the Susan G. Komen or the Pediatric Cancer Month thing, and then their faces. They would just weave in and out of heel and face, and you're supposed to know the real life them separated from the TV character. It's like it just got too muddled and confusing, too weird. But that's how they do things for whatever reason. So the Kabuki Warriors are just heel with absolutely no turn. So that's typical WWE storytelling. So they're trying to atone for it. So even though the story is a little out of order, they actually did a heel turn for the Kabuki Warriors tonight. After they've already been heel, they now give them a heel turn, an actual heel turn. So Paige is in the ring with them, kind of putting them over about how she brought this tag team together. Asuka takes the microphone out of her hand. It wasn't clear that she took it out of her hand in the first place. I kind of thought that she handed it to her. Asuka's shouting in Japanese, and Kyrie Sane takes it away from Paige. Then she drops it. I'm like, oh, that was weird. This is a really awkward segment. Then Asuka sprays Paige in the face with the green mist. And it, obviously it's, that they took her off as manager. I guess Paige is going to go do WWE Backstage or something like that. She's going to be one of the correspondents for that. It was a good little angle here. It got people booing for sure. And finally, to me, that was that's the official heel turn of the Kabuki Warriors. So the story is a little out of order. You're supposed to do the angle and then you're heel. You shouldn't be heel and then do the angle. It's bizarre, out of order WWE storytelling. But hey, at least they did it, because most of the time they don't do it. You're just, all of a sudden you show up your heel. They don't even feel like doing a turn. They usually don't. Maybe they don't feel like doing turns because every time somebody turns, the crowd just wildly cheers them. Because crowds don't even care about the story anymore. They just like being there for something important. They like being there for an angle. And they don't really care. They're not invested in the characters. They're just more invested in, hey, we saw something cool tonight. So maybe they took heel turns out, but you can't take heel turns out of wrestling. You can't reinvent wrestling that much to remove the heel turn. So yeah, there's that. And then they go to attack Paige. Of course, Paige can't take any bumps. She's had 2 neck surgeries and been forced into retirement, so she can't do anything. So Asuka just menacingly goes near her. Paige can't even like go down to a knee in the ring anymore. Like they are so afraid of her taking like any type of action. Maybe that's why they're also taking her off the road with the Kabuki Warriors too. I don't know, but then she stands menacingly near Paige, and Becky Lynch runs down. That sets up the match: Becky Lynch and Kyrie Sane. A little sloppy at times, I thought, the Becky Lynch and Kyrie Sane match, but when they kicked it into the next gear, they got there pretty good. The last 4 or 5 minutes of the match were pretty damn good, really, really good. Even I wouldn't mind seeing Kyrie Sane in a title match. In fact, as I was watching, I was almost like, this almost is a title match. It has the feel of like there's something on the line here, even though it was non-title. But and the commentary, and I never say this, hardly ever, but the commentary, more than just Jerry Lawler tonight, the commentary was really good at building this match and kind of just saying like, something simple. Hey, this team has history with Becky Lynch. Kyrie Sane pinned her 2 weeks ago on Raw, and Asuka pinned Becky Lynch at the Royal Rumble this year. Hardly anybody has beaten Becky Lynch this year, and yet these two have beaten her. So there's some history here. And you know what? Just watching as a viewer at home, being reminded of some history and like, it's simple storytelling. Simple storytelling. And that's something that they got far, far away from in recent years, just doing a simple storyline. And this entire show, other than the love triangle and the Seth Rollins Fiend crap, is just filled with simple storylines now. And you know what? Those things work. Wrestling, the concept of professional wrestling hasn't changed that much that those things won't work, So they'll work again. And it definitely worked, just telling a simple story about the history and how Asuka and Kyrie Sane have both beaten Becky Lynch in a year when Becky Lynch is essentially unbeatable. That's good storytelling. That's really, really good. And Dio Madden explaining the mist wasn't too bad, Andrew Elder says as well. Yeah, absolutely, because Jerry Lawler's like, what is this mist? What is it? And Dio Madden was just trying to say, I forget his explanation for it, but at least he had something to say that, and it didn't sound goofy, where it wasn't like Corey Graves and Michael Cole and Renee Young. They're like, well, I don't know. It's like no information given, no credibility whatsoever. They're starting to gel. It's a 3-man team. I don't know why they're doing a 3-man team on Raw and they have a 2-man team on SmackDown. I don't think you need a 3-man team, but I guess because of the 3-hour show, maybe you just want it just so there's some, maybe for stamina issues and maybe just for an extra voice so it's not the same 2 over and over again. But they are starting to gel as a team. It's been a month since the season premiere of Raw, so it's a good chunk of time together, and they are starting to gel. I like Vic Joseph. Dio Madden still has a ways to go. He's still a little green, but he's definitely made some great improvements. And that's the beauty of Jerry Lawler, to have somebody who's been there, done that, as this kind of like this guiding, steady hand that will, kind of assuage the nervousness and the fears probably of 2 new commentators, in a big situation. So it's a good thing. For all those people that were like, why Jerry Lawler? There it is right there. That's exactly why you have Jerry Lawler on this, involved in this commentary team. So at the end of this, Becky Lynch gets the win by submission with the disarm her, and that's that. We don't have any clear title match for Becky Lynch coming up, and that's probably because no women allowed in Saudi Arabia. Absolutely no women allowed. That's a big no-no. So our blood money, Saudi Arabia, no women allowed to wrestle, so we don't need to have Becky Lynch having a title match competitor for that. And then the next pay-per-view after that is Survivor Series. And it's usually SmackDown versus Raw, which is kind of stupid. You know, like now the SmackDown Raw thing this year is kind of dumb because it's like, oh, absolutely, you know, after the draft there will be no interactions with Raw and SmackDown, none. It's like, okay, well, here's Survivor Series, Raw and SmackDown. You know, it's like, I don't know if they're doing Raw and SmackDown yet, but they usually do. And if that's the case, it'll be the Raw Women's Champion taking on the SmackDown Women's Champion. So right now it's looking like Becky Lynch and Bayley. That's not a title match. It's just a match. Doesn't sound as exciting as Becky Lynch and Ronda Rousey last year, but hey, maybe Becky Lynch will break her nose again before the thing starts. And by the way, as I was talking about Saudi Arabia and blood money, that is coming up this Thursday. This show is the go-home show for that. They had no women's segments on Raw last week, 0. And I forgot to mention that last week, which is stunning. Really, really surprising. 0 women's matches at all. Not even an appearance from women other than like Charlie Caruso backstage. There's no Evolution coming up this week. You know, nothing, because they had Evolution last year to kind of like counteract, like, hey, the negative publicity of Crown Jewel last year. None of that. So, you know, we had no women's matches last week. We had a half-hour women's starting off Raw tonight, so they kind of made up for it, but still doesn't really take away the stink of the fact that they're the face of their company. It's not Roman Reigns. It's Becky Lynch. It's not Seth Rollins. It's Becky Lynch. That's the face of the company. The true face of the company. When The Rock went out there for the SmackDown premiere on Fox, who did they send out there? Becky Lynch to interact with him. That to me is like as striking of an endorsement as any. She's the face of the company, and she's not going to be on one of their big shows of the year. Kind of interesting. Gold Steel X asking, is SmackDown going to be a show full of jet-lagged wrestlers? The answer is 100% yes. I have to say, you know, since I took this gig as the editor-in-chief of Wrestleview, I keep track of the WWE schedule in an Excel spreadsheet. They have an unbelievably hellacious schedule coming up. Unbelievably hellacious. They're going to do Crown Jewel this Thursday, so they have to fly everybody. So they're going to do they're all going to fly over to Saudi Arabia, do Crown Jewel, and then the SmackDown crew, whatever's there, is going to have to get on a plane, fly back to Buffalo, go do SmackDown, and then after that, they're going over to Europe and doing a whole tour of Europe. So again, they're going to fly overseas and they're going to do a full thing in Europe. I think they're taping Raw and SmackDown on the same day too. And then once they're done with that, then they come back. The European tour ends. They come back for Raw, and then they do, and then it's just Survivor Series weekend. So it's an unbelievable. It's going to be a brutal freaking month for them. They have about, from my last count, I guess including the NXT house shows too, about over 50 live events in the month of November. Over 50. That's quite a bit. That's quite a lot. And then like a 12 or 13 day period, they have 2 shows a day over in Europe. It's brutal. Absolutely brutal. My hat is off to them for going through that. Anyway, I don't know where I was going with all this stuff, but yeah, they gotta. It's gonna be a lot of jet lag after Saudi Arabia, that's for sure. You got to appreciate what they do. You know, we can complain about storytelling, we can complain about, you know, character development in this company, but the one thing you can't really complain about is the heart of the guys and girls on their roster. These people, they go through a hell of a lot, and they take a lot of crap online. Some of it warranted, some of it not. Some of it is a creative issue and not really a them issue, but they're the ones in the firing line. But man, the lengths that they go through for their job and to entertain is unbelievable. Unbelievable. So, cut them some slack every now and then. Especially if SmackDown's not that good on Friday, cut them some slack. It's certainly not going to be 888,000 people watching it. It'll be back to about 2 million again, now that they move back to Fox. It's not fair. As I said last week on Post Raw, it's not even fair for me to like have even posted the ratings today, but obviously you have to report it. But it's not even fair to like make any comparisons. It's a one-time only number. It is what it is. What did they think it was going to happen? All right. Going on with Raw, we have R-Truth in the ring, and I can't remember the last time I saw R-Truth in a serious wrestling match. He's facing Buddy Murphy. They do a quick little thing in the ring with R-Truth, saying, Charlie Caruso in the ring. She says, you're going to be facing Buddy Murphy, and R-Truth goes, hey, hold on. That guy ain't my buddy. I barely know him. She goes, well, then that's his name, Buddy Murphy. He goes, I know. And then she asks him about losing the 24/7 title to Sunil Singh, and then he says, I knew there was two of them, and he brings out his bifocals to say that he has an extra pair of eyes to keep on them. And he says when he finds Ranjan Singh, he's going to beat him and win the title back. And I got a real kick out of, hey, Jamel's in the chat room. I didn't even know. How are you doing, Jamel? He's popping in to say congrats. Thank you very much, Jamel. I really appreciate that. So, anyway, I got a real pop out of me for mentioning Ranjan Singh on television tonight. Great Khali's old manager. I definitely like that. Oh, Victoria with the baby, just walking in the background. So sweet. Buddy Murphy makes his entrance. He says that R-Truth is focused on everything but him, but he's Australia's finest, and after tonight, R-Truth will not forget him. They have a quick little match. It was just a match, a regular match, and then, of course, the 24/7 thing happens. They're all running around the ring. R-Truth gets involved in a merry-go-round. They're all just running around the ring, just circling the ring, and then R-Truth finally gets in before being counted out. Buddy Murphy, who seems like he's a humongous fan of Kenny Omega, hits him with a V-trigger and pins him for the win. So I love Buddy Murphy. I know that Paul Heyman loves Buddy Murphy. I think Buddy Murphy's going to be a big-time player on Raw, and I'm really looking forward to that. And I mentioned tonight on Twitter, as for the 24/7 title thing, Hayden asks, does that walk past keep Victoria off the milk carton? Well, you couldn't see her on the video, but she was walking by me over here. She was getting a bottle for the baby. Does that keep her off the milk carton? You have to ask Doug for his what his parameters are for that. It's not you guys, but like I don't know how many people watch the show and who's watching, and I just I don't want to creepy people seeing the baby or anything like that. So we're trying to just keep her off the show. Eventually she'll probably wind up on the show at some point. And Daniel, very important for Daniel Shell. This is Buddy Murphy is Alexa Bliss's ex. So there's that. But I was saying on Twitter, the 24/7 title, it's over. The joke is over. It's on life support now to me. I really got a kick out of it over the summer. They had a tremendous run. A real, way better than I ever thought, to the point where I actually, on this show, multiple times, said how wrong I was about the 24/7 title. This title had more life to it than I ever expected. It even had some of the greatest comedy segments in WWE in the last decade, maybe even in the last 20 years. I mean, these were all-time funny segments. Drake Maverick in the hotel with the 24/7 title around his waist, and that's the only thing around his waist. Unable to consummate his marriage. All the different ways that they beat each other. It had a great run, but it's kind of over now. And now it's like, all right, joke's over. Can we start to move on? Can we start to consider something different? I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, I was like, ugh. And did he ever consummate? No, he did not. If in fact, Drake Maverick is like so committed to his gimmick. If you go on his Twitter account, every now and then he'll put out a tweet, and then he'll just end the tweet with saying, "Still have yet to consummate my marriage." I'm like, God, that sucks. That sucks for him. It's not true, but of course, but it sucks. Authors of Pain segment, Akim and Razor talking in their native tongues, and they soon start talking English and about how they'll dominate the tag team division. They send out the Street Profits. They get in the ring. They do a light, the crowd sort of chants, "We want the smoke." Gets a little louder because they're looking for it to get louder, which was a little cringy. It's like, how many times have I said that, like when Sasha Banks and Bayley were faces and they're standing in the ring and, especially after winning the women's tag team titles, they're standing in the ring and they're waiting for it. They're just looking around, waiting for them to start chanting, "You deserve it," and all that stuff so they can go, "Oh, really? Please. Me?" Oh. Like that, like it doesn't count if you're actually looking for it. But the Street Profits, this is only their second time in front of the crowd. They've only done backstage segments, and most of them are throwaway segments. They're the hosts of Raw. I of course, pay attention to the segments because that's my job. But I'm sure when their segments came up, it's just like, tune out television. I'm waiting for the next match. I'm just going to, I'll be looking at my phone or whatever. You're not really paying attention. So not really a lot of people know who these guys are, even though they've been on TV since like July. This is their second time in front of the crowd. The crowd has never really, a main audience has not really been introduced to the Street Profits. And obviously you can tell from the NXT numbers and how many people watch on the USA Network. That's not a big chunk of the viewing audience that have seen them consistently. So they don't know their chants. They don't know what's what with them. Some people obviously in the crowd did, but a "We want the smoke" chant, deafening in the arena, is a long ways off. But the good thing is these guys they just have charisma for days. They are just two awesome pieces of talent. And they will get over. And when they get over, they're going to be huge. They are going to be huge. They're going to be great. And those chants will eventually happen. But tonight was a little cringy. Basically, they just said, and they were trying to play to the hometown crowd, saying that they made their Raw debut last week, and you always remember your first time. Even though it wasn't in beautiful St. Louis, they still made the OC feel the blues, talking about the St. Louis Blues and stuff like that. So they mentioned Kevin Owens, who did not show up tonight. There's no sighting of Kevin Owens tonight, even though you think there would be, since he attacked the OC. But no. Another "We want the smoke" chant picks up, and then they say that they want the smoke, and they dance through the crowd. So eventually you dance through the crowd enough, you try to do the "We want the smoke" thing. We'll see what happens. It should be good. Oh God, Gresh. Watch Doug have a stroke if both Epico and Primo show up in South Dakota for Crown Jewel. Well, if they didn't show up in the 50-man Battle Royal, I don't think that they're... I think that they will make it to the year of not being seen at all. I think they will make it. Especially because Carlito said that, that basically... Savio Vegas, after talking to Carlito, said that WWE's basically forgot that they even have the colognes and that they're just basically back to working Puerto Rico, and that's it. Like they're totally off the road. They're doing their own thing. I don't even know how they're still employed by the company. It's amazing. It kind of reminds me of Bastion Booger, a great story from Bastion Booger. I heard it on a Legends Roundtable or something like that. Pat Patterson. It was something like Jim Ross, Michael Hayes, Pat Patterson, Eric Bischoff, and like some kind of like weird roundtable like that. They used to have that before the WWE Network. They had like a WWE On Demand service, and they would do this roundtable. I loved it. I loved when they would come out with new episodes of it. I think you can still catch it on the WWE Network too. But anyway, Pat Patterson talks about Bastion Booger and says, we forgot that I think his name was Mike something. I forget his last name, but his real name was it was Mike something, Mike Clark, Mike something. And he goes, well, anyway, he showed up. He was showing up for months, and No. And then he finally comes up to me. It's Pat Patterson talking. He goes, he finally comes up to me and he goes, hey, I've been coming to the shows for months and you haven't used me. And they forgot that they wanted to fire him, but nobody ever told him. It was kind of like a situation in the office with, they just moved into the basement and somehow there's a payroll glitch and he's been getting paid all this time. And, the Red Stapler, that guy. Or Office Space, not the Office, Office Space. And then, so Pat Patterson goes up to Vince, and then they call it wasn't Mike Sharp, that's Iron Mike Sharp. Nope, still can't think of his name. But they call him into the office, and then they fire him. So it's like, poor guy, if you just kept your mouth shut, you could have just stuck around and made a couple more paychecks. Like, geez, man, oh man. So, yeah. That's kind of like how I feel about the Colognes. I think they're being bashed and boogered right now, and if they know anything about wrestling history, and I'm sure they do because they grew up in the biz, with Carlos Colon as the father and I think uncle for Epico, they should know to keep their mouth shut. Just keep collecting that paycheck. Just keep collecting the paycheck. It's good money. Every dollar is green, and it all costs the same. Ricochet versus Drew McIntyre, a rematch from last week, and what was a damn good match last week. Ricochet has in his corner Hulk Hogan and Jimmy Hart, and Drew McIntyre has Ric Flair in his corner. This match took a little time to get going, but once it got going, again, just like last week, it was a really good match. I loved the interactions with, thank you, Quentin, Mike Shaw. Yep, that's exactly who it was. Bash and Booger Mike Shaw. And I think he was also Norman the Lunatic in WCW. With the Cactus Jack lost in Cleveland. The vignettes were centered around Mike Shaw and Norman the Lunatic, I believe. So yeah, he's definitely done some things. Friar Ferguson, yes, Quentin Walters bringing up the big names right now. There you go. All right. Yeah, but this match was. I love the interactions with McIntyre and Hulk Hogan. When he got in Hogan's face after doing the big boot and the leg drop and got right in his face, that was pretty intense. That was probably the best I've seen Hulk Hogan since he's come back. Because Hogan, since he's been back, has just basically been like, and I guess even before, he's just been a cliche of himself. Essentially, he's just been like, brother, like the whole thing. It's just been like a caricature almost, and that actually looked like a real angle. It felt real. It was really. I just thought it was really, really good interactions. Again, I know not everybody's a fan of Hogan, but that was some pretty good stuff. Yeah. Anyway, so the match. My one qualm with this match is that McIntyre is just like, for what they do with him, he's just like way too unbeatable for and for somebody who doesn't really have anything on the burner right now. And I'm not really sure that I'd want to see a Seth Rollins versus Drew McIntyre series either. Because number one, it's kind of hard to tell them apart. But Drew McIntyre is like this cyborg Terminator guy. It's like everything that Ricochet does, immediately like McIntyre's like popping up and just hitting power move after power move. It's like, wait, I thought that Ricochet was supposed to be the real life superhero here, and it looks like Drew McIntyre is that gimmick. Like, first of all, real life superhero is like the worst tagline of all time. Really, really horrible. Just, it sucks. There are no real life superheroes, and how can you refer to him as a real life superhero if the guy is constantly losing all the time? Really? Like, real life superhero? He lost last week. He loses. Well, he won, but it was kind of a Pyrrhic victory. His winning. He wins, but he wins while losing. He won by disqualification. But yeah, it's almost like one too many powerful comebacks for McIntyre to the point where it's like, okay, come on, like really, can anything affect this guy? Really? And then the match ends when Randy Orton runs in and hits probably the coolest looking RKO I've seen in quite some time. The RKO, Ricochet basically just face planted on it. It was totally awesome. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the chat right now. Superheroes never lose. Grash says Spider-Man loses all the time. Yeah, I guess so. Hey, I want to ruin Hey Brother with Hogan's brother. Crash. It's good. I like that. But yeah, just good. It was actually good build for the Team Flair versus Team Hogan match. I mean, we've been told 10,000 times it's happening. I don't know how much Hogan and Flair will move the needle after 4 weeks of being on television at this point, but usually the segments that they're in get big numbers. I'm very, very interested to see the Raw numbers tomorrow, especially because they kept them in the first hour and bled them into the second hour too. I'm going to be covering Crown Jewel on Thursday, and I believe, I don't want to say 100%, but the Crown Jewel post show, I should be doing it with Wrestleview's webmaster Paul Nemmer, who lives in the Middle East now. So he'll have a fresh perspective on the Saudi Arabia show. He doesn't live in Saudi Arabia, but he lives close to it. He should be doing the show with me. We will be together, most likely. If not, it's just going to be me. But, so I'm kind of like looking for things to get me excited about the show. I have to admit, I kind of am. The one thing I'm really excited for is Team Hogan versus Team Flair. Don't ask me why. But something about McIntyre going face-to-face with Hogan, Ric Flair just being a great Ric Flair heel is kind of gets me excited. So we'll see. Rizzo and Bryan versus the Viking Raiders. They have two jobbers, Chris imitating Chris Bryant and Anthony Rizzo of the Chicago Cubs, go against the Viking Raiders. The Viking Raiders crush them. Obviously, the Chicago Cubs have nuclear heat in St. Louis because they are the bitter rivals of the St. Louis Cardinals. So everybody hates the Cubs. Everybody was happy to see the Raw Tag Team Champions, the Viking Raiders, take out Rizzo and Bryant. Good stuff. I was a little disappointed in this next one. Andrade versus Sin Cara. Sin Cara has this person with him, a female in a luchador mask named Catalina. I don't know... I don't know who she is. If somebody in the chat room has a little insight as to who she is, that would be great. But she's there to counteract Zelina Vega, and she does. During the match, she counters Zelina Vega's flying Hurricane Rana off the apron into a slam into the barricade, so that was good. But Sin Cara still takes the loss, and damn, the Sin Cara Andrade match last week was really good. I was looking forward to a good sequel, and it was a short one-segment match. It's just, it had nothing. Randy M. asking if that's Katrina from Lucha Underground. I have no idea, man. I have no idea. No clue. But the only thing I thought when he said, oh yeah, this is Catalina. She's my backup. She's got my back tonight. I was like, it's the fucking Catalina wine mixer. I was like, Step Brothers all the way. Classic movie. 11 years later, it's still got quotable lines. So that's pretty good. But yeah, no clue who Catalina is. Andrade wins still, even though Catalina counteracted Zelina Vega. The distraction of Catalina slamming Zelina Vega caused Sin Cara to be rolled up. So Zelina Vega still played a factor in the finish. And so there's that. Charlotte Flair and Natalya versus the Iconics. I have to admit that I was cringing. Really, really cringing. Andrew Elder saying she's a Performance Center newbie. Okay, so that's who Catalina is. Or however you spell it. Whatever they said. I don't know. Dio Madden, I think, called her Katrina. And somebody else called her Catalina. I don't know. They never even gave her a nameplate when she was coming down and they were making their entrance. I have to admit, I cringed when I saw the Iconics were going to be in this match because they are just so bad in the ring. And you know what? I watched the match, and it's probably because they were in there with Charlotte Flair, who's... I'm not even kidding. I'm not kidding. I really do believe this. She's one of the all-time great female professional wrestling performers that WWE has ever had in their entire history. She's one of the best, if not the best. And if she's not the best, she's in the top 3. She's really, really, really good. And she's got that Flair lineage. It's in her genes. And there's something to it. There's something to those second and third generation wrestlers. They just have something that some first generation wrestlers don't have. And don't get me wrong, there's like tons of tremendous first generation wrestlers, but they always seem to have a little bit of an edge, don't they? They always do. Randy Orton, The Rock, Jeff Jarrett. All these guys have tons of staying power. These and obviously Charlotte Flair, a second generation wrestler, she grew up with it. She carried the Iconics to a competent match. Natalya was there. Okay, so Natalya is I don't know what I'm talking about anymore. And Natalya is obviously the antithesis to what I was just talking about, where she's a second generation performer, or third generation actually. Yes, third generation, and she's not that good. She's not that good. But she was there. I didn't cringe when they were in the ring, so I guess that time off of television, they've improved a little bit. So I guess not cringing during their match is an improvement, right? Yeah, I think so. The whole Hate Kayla thing, I see some people think the Hate Kayla thing's funny. I don't really like much of anything the Iconics do. The gimmick it's not for me. It's not for me. I'm not saying that their promos are bad or that you're stupid for laughing at it or something like that. It's just not for me. I don't think it's funny. I don't want to say Hey Kayla because I don't want to peak my microphone, and I'm trying to be nice to people that are listening to this on podcast with earphones on. I don't want to blow their ears out here, So, yeah. Oh, please, you noob. Oh, God, I have a dissenting opinion from everybody else. I must be a jerk. I guess so. Yes, we're entitled to our opinions. So we got Seth Rollins, who was booed during his promo, taking on Eric Rowan in a Falls Count Anywhere match. They are so hard up to get Seth Rollins cheered by the crowd that they even resorted to having him use a Mick Foley cheap pop by talking about how he's happy to be in St. Louis and got a moderate cheer. I was like, God, that's cringy. And then I guess due to the Jim Ross situation where Jim Ross said, oh, Seth talked about the AEW roster, maybe he'll one day be as over as his girlfriend is. And Mark Henry actually went on Busted Open Radio, apparently, and defended Seth Rollins and said that Jim Ross, said something. It was classless of him to say that. So Rollins, and it wasn't by accident, him saying this, borrows a line from Mark Henry and saying, that's what I do. He's talking about, how he loves challenges in his career, and beating the Fiend is a challenge, but he has to beat the Fiend to end the Fiend and burn it down. Rollins versus Eric Rowan in a Falls Count Anywhere match. Just a match, nothing too exciting, I guess, because he has to be ready for a long-ass plane ride over to Saudi Arabia for Crown Jewel and to face the Fiend. So there's a lot, he can't get too beat up where it's like uncomfortable to sit in a plane for like 17 or 18 hours. And they did a thing. They resurrected the finish to Halftime Heat from 1999, The Rock versus Mankind in the empty arena match. They fought to the loading dock. Mankind lowered a forklift onto The Rock and pinned him for the WWF title. They did the same finish here tonight. Seth Rollins has a forklift operator lower the lift onto Eric Rowan, and then he stood on him for the pin. The only thing that they did right about that was they took out the corny overhead close-up facials of The Rock, like what they did on Halftime Heat, because that match was actually, to me, it stands up. It's actually kind of fun. And I hear the baby. Oh, okay, hold on. I have to excuse me while I turn on the child's mobile on their security camera that we have for her. Okay, it is on.
Thank you.
Hold on, I have to turn on the nightlight now. I like her to have cycling colors, so it's not just one color.
I'll play the music too.
There we go. Okay, so there you go. That's parenting at work, right in your face. There you go. Anyway, where was I going with this? Oh yes, the Halftime Heat empty arena match kind of stands up for me, but the end of that with the overdone camera angles was bad then, and it's still bad now. So the one thing they did right was took that out. I don't know if this match was enough to get people behind Seth Rollins. I don't think it was, because he was doing everything. He jumped off the commentary table with a crossbody block. He was doing, he's hitting him with chairs, hit him with stomp. Nothing nothing was enough to put him away. And then at the end, it's like, what does that say about Seth Rollins that like he hits him with the stomp onto a ladder on the concrete floor backstage, and then I guess he had to use a forklift because Eric Rowan was still conscious for that. It's kind of, I don't know. The stomp isn't really working anymore. They kind of killed it with the 9,000 kickouts at Hell in a Cell a couple weeks ago. Okay, Hayden Barker's right. We definitely had a Victoria sighting in the corner. Yep, that was her. She was there. So she's off the milk carton, I guess. They had whiskey on my pacifier when I was that age. Thanks, Gran. That's Hayden Barker. That's pretty good. That's good. The baby is fed. I promise you, the baby is fed. The baby's sleeping right now, and the security, the little camera that we have over her crib, has it can play music. You can talk to her through it. You can put on a light up mobile that will shine on the ceiling for her. So that's what I was doing before, and also has a night light on it that I also put on for her. Victoria's not really good at working the monitor yet, but she'll get there eventually. And I think Victoria might be joining the chat room momentarily anyway. We'll see. All right, so we have Aleister Black backstage. Waiting for somebody to knock on his door. It was a good promo, but the same promo we've been hearing. AJ Styles versus Humberto Carrillo. They are really trying to give Humberto Carrillo. That's a good one. Player wrestling videos. Hayden Barker wants me to play some wrestling videos for the baby. The baby has actually watched wrestling with me already. I did put up a joking photo of the baby on the Wrestleview Media Facebook page of her watching SmackDown. I assure you, and somebody said that that's like child abuse. I assure you the baby fell asleep within minutes of that show starting. So she actually that means she has good taste. But the baby, funny story, I think I already told the story, but the night they were going to induce Victoria was a Wednesday night. We had the baby at 3:54 in the morning on Friday. So the inducing started the induction started on Wednesday. And at the beginning of the induction, we had TNT on. We were watching AEW. So the baby kind of came into the world watching, the last wrestling show she watched was AEW while in Victoria. So, and the baby watched AEW again. And so we'll see what's happening. I don't know if she'll be a lifelong fan like I am. I don't even know if she'll tolerate it at any point in her life. But I'm trying at least. So she doesn't roll her eyes every time Daddy's watching wrestling now. Okay. AJ Styles, they're trying versus Humberto Carrillo. They are trying to give Humberto Carrillo the early John Cena build, where they're putting him against big stars. Last week he faced Seth Rollins in his first match ever on Raw. He lost, but he had a good showing. This week he's facing AJ Styles, the United States champion. He lost, but he had a good showing. The crowd isn't really feeling it yet. Like I said, it wasn't just like last week where I said, it wasn't like a John Cena feel where it's like the crowd was like just falling over themselves, really thinking that he's going to win. I almost think that it was that it was, now that I'm thinking about it, I think it was a mistake to put Humberto Carrillo in there against Seth Rollins last week, because you knew that Humberto Carrillo was not beating the world champion his first night. Now you put him in there against AJ Styles, that's a different story. Maybe you can get into that match a little more, last week. Maybe this week you do Seth Rollins. I don't know. But, again, they're really trying to put a rocket on him, put him against some good guys, and losing efforts, but he looks good losing, to try to lift him off and try to make him their next big Latino star. We'll see what happens. That remains to be seen. That definitely remains to be seen. But yeah, it was decent. After the match, AJ Styles won by submission after kind of clipping the leg midair and applying the calf crusher. So AJ Styles wins by submission. Styles hits him with a Styles Clash, and the OC goes in to attack him, but then the Street Profits run down and clear the ring of the OC. Humberto Carrillo stands tall with the Street Profits, so I'm guessing maybe next week on Raw, it'll be Humberto Carrillo and the Street Profits versus the OC. Maybe Carrillo will finally get a win or something like that. We'll see. I also think, and I didn't really see the graphics, so I don't even know if he's even in the match, but I could definitely see Humberto Carrillo winning the Battle Royal at Saudi Arabia, and then facing AJ Styles for the United States title on the show. So we'll see what happens. Maybe they'll really strap the Rock to his back and make him United States champion in Saudi Arabia. We'll see. And then that leads us to the divorce court with Jerry the King Lawler, which we already talked about ad nauseum. So yeah, there's that. That was Raw. So again, it continues on this trend of kind of like a hard reset of the show, giving the old guys a little bit of an edge. Seth Rollins doing a Falls Count Anywhere match, stomp on a ladder, using the forklift to get the pin, going the extra mile to be extra destructive. That's like the Paul Heyman style. I expect to see a lot more physical matches in the coming weeks, especially if Paul Heyman really, truly is kind of guiding the ship in the way that he wants to. And especially because Vince is concentrated solely on SmackDown now, it seems like, and the XFL coming up, Heyman will definitely have a lot of leeway. And if that's the case, expect a lot more physical matches, and it takes a toll on the performers, though. I remember listening to a podcast, I think it was a Bruce Pritchard podcast, where he was talking about the Paul Heyman era, and that, it was really popular, but those guys, they really got beat up during that era because, Heyman does a lot of gimmicky matches and stuff like that. So expect to see, a lot more gimmicks like Falls Count Anywhere coming up. So it'll be tough. It'll be tough, but it'll be entertaining for us. It'll be tough on the performers, but hey, whatever you need to do to kind of like get everybody over. So they're giving the older guys an edge, and they're introducing some fresh talent, Street Profits, Humberto Carrillo, kind of reintroducing us to Andrade, who could be a real player. They think Humberto Carrillo is going to be the next Latino star. It could very well be Andrade too. It very well could be. Guys like that, it's good stuff. I can't argue with what they're doing on Raw. I can't say that I disliked it tonight. It was good. It just continues the trend. It wasn't great. It wasn't like, oh my God, it's like the best show I've ever seen, but I'll take passable at this point. I will take passable from Raw. I will. And that's all I could ask for. Passable at this point in the fall. At this point in the fall, if you go back and watch post Raw from this time last year, I'm stunned that I wasn't just the intro video didn't play, and then it was just a 5-minute shot of me weeping openly from having watched that train wreck of a show. So the fact that the show is passable and that they're trying to do something with it, I'll take that all day long in the fall. I'll take that all day long. And with that, I'm going to wrap up the show for tonight. What say you in the chat room? Does everybody thumbs up, thumbs down? I know Hayden Barker said he gave it a thumbs down. I think Quentin gave it... Quentin gave it a thumbs up. Just a thumbs up. Just barely got there. I'd like to see what everybody else thinks of the show. Again, I'm looking at the Wrestleview Twitter poll. It's 67% thumbs down now. I don't think that's going to change. I think everybody's kind of voting just on what they last saw with the divorce court segment. But looking at it overall, again... They're doing a lot. Thumbs up, why not, from Nafis Sadat. Thumbs in the middle from Daniel Schell. Ugh, God. Scott Poindexter gives a thumbs up. 69 in the middle from Randy. Thumbs up from Andrew Elder. All right. We're changing minds here on Post Raw. We're changing minds. I like that. Good stuff. Well, I'm going to take off, but this is not the last that you have seen of me. I will be back on Thursday, immediately following Crown Jewel, for Wrestleview Live. Maybe joined by Paul Nemmer. I'm not sure. And that's going to be a busy day for the Wrestleview, YouTube channel, because after Wrestleview Live, later on that night, I think around 8, I think he changed his time to 8 o'clock. Doug Lackey is going to be on for Wrestleview Weekly. And then I'll be back, and hopefully with a fixed OBS this time. Oh, we got more ups here. We got up, Machine Walls, Billy Hefner give it an up. I will be back for Post Raw number 58. All right. And that will be the start of the build toward Survivor Series. So we'll see what happens then. Until then, I thank you all, truly thank you all for joining me tonight. Always great to be here talking with you all. And I'll check you all next week. I hope you all have a great week. And I'll see you on Thursday. Not next week. I'll see you on Thursday. So see you soon. Have a good one, everybody. Take care.